access any market, and we do everything else for you. So you focus on what you're good at, which is your manufacturing, your marketing, getting your product right, getting your customer segment right, whatever it is, and leave the rest to us. So this is what we say when we meet our customers. So
I
thanks.
think a very important aspect which you mentioned was the planning part. You know, I think most logistic companies traditionally would offer only the logistic part. The planning is left to the customer himself. But if
Mm.
somebody were to offer them planning facilities,
Yeah, yeah.
to, as you said, to help him focus on what he is good at, is the front end, is the manufacturing, but leave the supply chain to you. I think that would be important. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
Okay, right. Thank you. Uh,
Thanks.
I would now like to ask Ranjan. Ranjan from NAPL, they are working on several new projects. They are consultants and working with various modes. One of the points of today's discussion is also multimodal transportation. And so far, cold chain in India is still single mode, only using road transportation. So I think there are enough opportunities to use the other modes, railways, the inland waterways, air, are some of the other modes that can be used. And Ranjan is working with some of the projects which deal with these modes. So Ranjan, would you like to add?
I haven't done a presentation, but I'll just speak from some of the things that I've seen and we have worked on. Uh, Primarily, one of the things the one question that you asked in where do you see the cold chain going in? I would say that the cold chain would be going in a long way, and if you look into from the government policies, this year the government is talking about supporting in the industry through at least an infusion of about 1,000 crores, which is not again a small sum. Supporting in 100 and plus projects with at least about 10 crores of grant in aid and so on and so forth, with an equivalent or maybe slightly more contribution from the industry. So I would say that the industry, at least in the medium term, there is a lot of support going to come in also from the government, uh, and then obviously the market dynamics should take place. There also has been a lot of efforts again on primarily on when we talk about multi-modals. Uh, Railways, I think, took in, they started looking at it. I won't be able to talk about Concourse experience per se, but railways, I think around 2010, 11 had started something called a Kishan Vision project, wherein they were basically saying in, OD destinations and hubs, wherein which would be, linked to the hinterlands. Unfortunately, one of the things that basically came up, and it came up a cropper, in my opinion, is primarily because they said that the flatbeds, uh, and one of the things within this Kisan Vision project was that can we link in the movement with rail and mail express trains. It sort of came in a cropper because when the question of saying that how do we tag on a flatbed onto a mail and express train, the speed and the technology with flatbeds became a problem that as per railways, flatbeds cannot do more than 60 to 70 kilometers an hour, whereas mail express in their own parlance is a minimum of 90 to 110 kilometers. So that's something which is which needs to be looked at. Again, in terms of multimodal within the country, it does exist, but in a limited way. So when we're talking about exports, we are talking about exports happening through a combination of rail and ship, primarily for meats and maybe also processed frozen products. Uh, Imports, I think fruits are a major example, and particularly apples and kiwis and others. But within the country, if we talk about multimodal being used on cold chain within the country for domestic consumption, I would say they are largely absent. Some exceptions may be there from place to place, but largely absent. And again, like I said, mostly it is rail and road. We have a very large waterways, but we really haven't worked on it. We have been hearing in successive governments talking about connecting in, the various rivers, maybe more from, an irrigation and water availability perspective. But in terms of transport, I guess the inland waterways continues to be a enigma and a dream as of today. But we need to understand why should we be looking at developing in a multi-modal. And if we look into any of the product and do a comparison vis-a-vis, and within India as well, leaving aside the other countries, we will find that, the cost using in a multi-modal vis-a-vis, I would say, broken transportation mechanisms, at least would be, around from 2 to 2.5 times. So, if you do in a multi-modal and if you look into the imports, the cost of freight on imports vis-a-vis the cost of freight on export, we've done something on processed food, and we found that, even to a place like Dubai, and let's say that, if you're moving in something from Uttarakhand via JNPT to Dubai and others, your overall cost comes to about a 4,000 to 4,200 US dollar for a 20-feet container, whereas the vice versa for import is nearly half. Reasons, primarily high turnaround time, and so therefore, a lot of cost associated with it. And, there was a study which was done in by a couple of universities which found that, on the waiting times at the Indian airport for export consignment is 50 to 60 hours vis-a-vis 12 to 15 globally. On imports, between 180 to 210 hours vis-a-vis 24 to 30 hours globally. This is airport. Seaport, the turnaround time is between 84 to 90 hours compared to 7 to 10 hours globally. And container handling, 15 hours. The number of times a container can, number of containers to be handled per hour is 15 compared to about 25 to 30 globally. So, we can see, and these all add on to our costs, and therefore, we say that, we are losing in the advantage of, exporting in products from India to abroad. The, one of the other things, and we recently were doing in, some study for Mother Dairy on their fruit and vegetables. And again, this is technology related, so I may not be the right person. I'm just, sharing in the experience. But these guys, who are handling in the logistics said that, Ranjan, today for bringing in vegetables, which is, 4 to 6 hours or maybe 7 hours max, we really do not need a refrigerated container, but a well-ventilated, aerated, mechanism. And I don't know what, whether it would be a container or a truck or whatsoever, that needs to be really looked at. And obviously, therefore the impact on then the cost. And the second, which, this discussion that I talked about railways was saying that, the railways were willing to develop in or, transform in, their existing passenger wagons into a mechanism wherein the pallet. So this is something which she was talking about, that, future trends, pallets vis-a-vis the tonnages, that really may be one of the things that needs to be looked at. And third, again, with a fair amount of technological investment is, which I guess the Lakshman Logistics guy tried in Delhi a few years back was, use of the phase change material. So, you use these primarily to reduce cost again. The third and more important, I think, would be looking at, saying in how do we work with the government to develop a perishables corridor? Because today, if you're talking about an average, trucking speed, you are talking about 25 to 30, 35 kilometers vis-a-vis 60 to 80 kilometers globally. And we know that a lot of time is spent on, one is the interstate, points wherein, they cross from one state to another. And the second, though, the toll roads have improved in the overall, I would say, driving comfort, but the time taken to wait at the tolls, less said the better. I know that, Gurgaon, I live there. If you're coming in from outside of Gurgaon or Jaipur to Gurgaon, and if you reach the toll at 7, you can be sure that, next 10 kilometers can take you as much as 3 to 4 hours. So that's something that we need to look at. And this again, I'm talking about the large, or the larger consumption or the tier 1, tier 2 cities. The situation is even worse in the connectivities both to and fro, in terms of both delivery as well as the pickup point from the outreach places. Uh, that's all from my side, but I still believe that, the cold chain has a lot of future, and we need to be, I think, get smart in terms of finding in the right technology and the approach to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ranjan, for that insight. Yeah, I do agree that, there are several challenges when you compare our statistics with global numbers on container clearance and road travel time. But I think the only way change will happen is by a market demand, by the market pulling infrastructure to come up to speed. And that, I think, the cold chain is definitely doing that. As more and more customers start demanding better cold chain facilities, I think the infrastructure will have to come up. I think one of the other changes that we see happening all around us is in terms of technology. We are all connected, we are online, hooked up 24/7. And technology definitely is making a lot of change in the way cold chain moves across the country. So to give a perspective of that, I would like to ask Rahul Agarwal to tell how he thinks technology is making a difference in cold chain logistics.
Thank you, Pankaj. So I'll give you a small example. We were talking about Kinos. Now, Kino is a product which, when you buy off the shelf, you can see it, you can smell it and decide whether you want to buy it or not. It's actually going to, be visible. Now, take an example of a vaccine which is being used for, life saving. And it's come from the factory where it's manufactured in Himachal, and it's come all the way down to Kerala, and it's being sold in a remote, village in a chemist shop. Now, you don't know what it has gone through, the efficacy of the product. And there is no way that you can test that product at the last point. So what happens when the product has gone bad, or when the efficacy is gone? What is the end result when it's injected into a patient who really needs it to save his life? I mean, I think we all know the answer to that. And another example I would like to give, and this is all technology related. The US FDA, which is one of the biggest buyers of medicines from India, was earlier tracking the goods which were coming in batch wise. Now they've come out with a new mandate where they said that we want a strip level barcoding. So which means that a customer who was sending a container of 1,000 shippers will now not only have to ensure that each shipper is being tracked, but also the strips or the vials within those shippers are also independently tagged, and that's a tall task. So whether it's perishables, or whether it's the segments like pharmaceutical, the need for the right technology is the question mark. So depending on the business that you are in, you have to identify the right technology. There is enough of availability globally. GPS is a very oft-used word, and it's been around in India for more than a decade. But how do you build up on that? What kind of add-ons do you need to monitor your business? So for example, typically the temperature sensors was a very common practice which was being used in the reefer vans and the cold rooms. And when we were dealing with our customers, we realized that one of the very important things is to control the door openings of the reefer vans. So whether we had a technology that enabled us to even map the door openings in real time, and which is what we've been able to do at our end, as to look at not only just the temperatures but also the door openings. One of the things that we are also looking to do, and which probably is also an industry wish list, is to be able to monitor the temperature controls of the AC units while the truck is in transit, remote monitoring. This practice is available in the developed markets, and I think we've also been talking to our suppliers in India to bring it in a big way out here, in a cost-effective manner, because globally these temperature scanners are very expensive. So the basic idea is to map your need, and then to identify the right vendors who can supply this technology to you, consistent after sales, because these are all products which will require maintenance time and time again. And you cannot have a situation where you're moving your product from point A to B across a distance of 2,000 kilometers, and then you don't have the technology working for you. So you're totally in a blind area. You don't know what's happened in that time. So the idea is to, map and build the right technology.
Right. Thank you, Rahul. Since we have such eminent panel, I would now ask the audience, in case there are any questions, any points that you would like the panel to elaborate upon. Any questions from the audience? Yeah, Akshay, can somebody give him a mic, please? Yes, conference,
Hi.
this session was on multimodal and we spoke about some of that.
I thought I'll just share it with you, sir. We spoke of the efficiencies about Concur. 6 years back, Concur was moving around 22 rakes every day from JNPT. So, which practically means 1 hour, some odd minutes, there was one train which was leaving JNPT. So, the efficiency of Indian Railways has been fantastic. I thought I'll just share it with you. The actual reason why cold chain has not been successful in a multimodal way, especially with railways, is because when you run a rake, you need that kind of a load. India, if we compare it with Europe, that will be very bad because in Europe, I think every country is very small. India is many Indias inside one India. There are state borders. Over there, multimodality works fantastically well. In India, it will not work for one given reason.